Hi guys, good evening, good morning. Can you hear me? Hey Bhaskar.
Yeah, hi sir, I
Yeah.
can hear you. Good
Hey,
evening.
good evening. Okay, hi Uday, Bhaskar, Chakravarti, Lakshmi, Maniganda, Siva. This
Hi
is a new
Raghavan, yeah.
person. Hey Siva. Okay. Hi.
Hi, sir. Good evening. Yeah, I'm a new person, sir. Joined now, actually.
Okay. Thanks for joining. Welcome to the group.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
Teja, BR, I think you are not around for a while, right, Teja? We missed you for.
Yeah, Raghavan.
Hmm.
Health is not good, so that's
Now,
why.
now you're all right.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So Uday Kumar, hope you are back to Bangalore and things are okay with you.
Yeah, everything is fine, sir.
Okay, Yatish. All right, good. So quite a few. The rest of all. Hi, Rajati. Okay. Hi, Lakshmi. The US folks. Huh? Good morning to you. It's okay, great. All right. So yeah, let's get started. Whereas others can join. Probably yes. Lakshmi, you could give it. Lakshmi or Chakravarti, you could just give it bus to the team members, right? Arun says he cannot join. That's fine. Okay. Let's get started. I'll share my screen. Okay, Dhananjay. All right. Hi, Dhananjay. Good evening. Hello. Dhananjay, can you hear us?
Hi, Raghavan. Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, great. Let's get started, guys. I'll share my screen. I have been actually preparing since afternoon to, for our efficient discussion today so that we can save the time as well. So let me keep this thing. Okay, you get to see my screen. Can you please quickly confirm? Rajati.
Yes,
Yes,
Raghavan,
sir.
it's
We are
clear.
able to.
Raghavan.
Okay, I need to open two different sheets. That's right. All right, so let's get started. I think there is some pending things as well. Okay, we'll take a look. All right. So let's go in that order. I think I've already shared this agenda in the group as well, right? Hope you must have seen that, what we could
Yeah.
potentially discuss it today, right?
Yes.
Well, I'll try to cover as much as possible in the same order. Probably the order can change. So what I thought probably, before we talk about JDBC and the concepts with respect to the Java database connectivity, we need to better talk about what I would say in terms of packages. There are certain nuances which we haven't covered. I thought I'll quickly go today, right? Go through them and then we'll get into that, right? So I have, this is one agenda where we'll also have a break and then continue later. Hope you're all prepared, right? And the assignments, whatever people who, I think I really appreciate Lakshmi and Bhaskar. I see both of them are very diligently following the practices and trying to do their best. Others, I do not know whether you are stuck somewhere or you are not able to totally pay attention to the assignments. I don't know, but I leave it to you. Right? It's better always to get your hands dirty and try to explore things as what we discuss. It's always good to have that. So I would leave that with the request. It's up to you. If you want to be in a better standing, you have to get your hands dirty. You should be coding. You should be with the Java, right? So I very well appreciate Lakshmi and Bhaskar who had been pinging me one-on-one, asking me questions. That shows their interest and commitment. It's as simple as that. I leave it that way, right? So they are very sincerely following up with me to understand the question or to update me that the problem statement is done, whether they've uploaded the solution in GitHub. But still, only thing is I couldn't really spend time in evaluating that. But to the best of my knowledge, I'm trying to take a look and suggest them, and I'm trying to have a conversation with them, at least. Whereas others, I don't really see. We don't have last year today, is it? See, this is again a problem, right? People don't have a consistency. Teja BR joined couple of days and then he wasn't well and Uday wasn't available. Now today I don't have Lazia, so that's fine. It's individual choice, right? So they might need to make themselves. This is again a part of commitment. It doesn't really make sense, probably you think you may catch up, but some may not be always. Because generally we cover about 2 hours of session and we have some practicals as well, right? We need to practice and code. How many of you actually, I'll ask one question. Of course, we haven't shared the code, only the video recording. I don't know how many of you actually go through the video recording in YouTube. Does anybody do that after our class anytime?
Yes,
Do you
sir.
have
Whenever we get in some time, I will refer that video.
Very good, Lakshmi. Great. I appreciate that. Thank you. Others? Anybody else?
Yeah, Raghavan. So for some of the concept, I used to go and rewatch again.
Okay, great, Dhananjay. Okay,
Yeah,
anybody
from
else?
my end also I have to go to, sir, because I have I was not part of some of the class. I think 3 classes I missed.
Very
I will be
good.
go through them and I will be completed. So tomorrow,
All right,
tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Within 2
Okay.
days I will be completed. The assignments I didn't start it actually. Because you know my situation. Right?
Got it. No problem. Okay, anybody else? Uday, Dhananjay, Lakshmi, I've heard.
Hi, Raghavan. Yeah.
Hey.
Yes, if I left
Yeah,
some,
yes, there's a-
like, I will
Let's
watch
check
the
it out.
video.
Sure, thanks. The reason why I'm asking that question is appreciate if you have an interest to watch up. Again, not necessary. Right? If you have attended the discussions very clearly, properly, you may not even have a necessity to go through the video once again. But my intention is not to request you to watch the video until otherwise you have a necessity. But the reason why I'm asking that question is how many of you are actually typing the code, whatever I'm demonstrating, I was typing. How many of you are actually typing the code in your machine and practicing it, at least for which you might need to go through the videos. What class we have, what style, what is the actual logic that you are typing, right? So this indicates maybe you are not practicing. After, of course, we finish the classes towards the end of the day, most likely, right? But you may get tired, or at least the next day. So how often do you spend time in reproducing the examples that we discuss in the class? That's the actual question that they wanted to ask. How many of you are able to?
Yeah, hi, Raghavan. Yeah, I'm audible.
Hey, yes.
Yeah, yesterday I missed the session, but I went through recording. The thing is, my
Okay.
KT was scheduled a little bit late yesterday. So that's the reason, yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, today and tomorrow I will complete yesterday's assignment and yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's not just only assignment, even the examples, right? Let's take a look. Right? Say let's go here. So day 10, that was yesterday's, right? If you look at it, there are quite a few classes we have typed, right? Yesterday also 2 hours, 2.5 hours, the discussion went. And we have typed a lot of different classes and examples. And I typed some markdown files as well for us to go through that, right? So how many of you are really taking time to practice the examples that we discuss in the class? That's my question. And I leave it as a request to you with a sincere advice. If you don't do that, your learning may not be complete, guys. That's my sincere take, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Raghavan, we'll do it here.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. That said, we'll get started. So all of you are able to see my screen, right? So
Yes, sir.
today I'll just start with a few other concepts. If you look at it, I wanted to talk. Probably let's touch base few things today. Encapsulation, probably we have spoken about classes and objects. And the polymorphism a bit we have touched. Maybe inheritance I don't cover today. Probably on demand we'll touch it later. It's not like I want to completely teach everything what is there in the book or subject. On demand, whatever I think I'm planning to cover, where it is relevant, I'm covering that, right? Of course, we have been talking about classes and objects for a while, and this is the most important thing we should have covered it. So this is what I thought I can cover here: encapsulation, getter, setter, static members and packages, then some collection API methods, exceptions, and string formatting, which is also a handy method. Date, obviously we can look at date as well, but let me fill it by when the order, right? Order can be changed. daytime. Then maybe Maven and JUnit, different order. This also I have already listed, and JDBC API plus GitHub. So probably I'll cover this first, whatever best, if not all, and then we'll talk about GitHub, finish it off, first session. Then we'll look at this in the second session where we'll look at JDBC and Maven as well, right? So with that said, see, to be frank, I have been spending roughly couple of hours today, maybe since 3 o'clock. I'm completely sitting today to prepare the materials because I wanted to cover quite a few topics. I don't want to spend time in typing or preparing the materials. That's the amount of involvement and commitment that I give it. So obviously I would request everybody else as well to show equal participation and get your hands dirty so that you are also in a comfortable position. Make sense? So these are the diagrams if you want to take a look, right? Couple of them I've been drawing because drawing also takes some time. Where others GitHub bundle I've already drawn a while ago, right? Plus this is also what Maven, this is JDBC, my bad. Okay, we'll talk about it when there is a time, right? Let's go with encapsulation. What is encapsulation? I've already completed this, so I don't need to explain, take time in typing it, right? What is encapsulation?
Can we say securing the data, like where we cannot
Exactly.
we are not
Right.
giving the access to
Yeah,
like directly
thanks.
not giving the access to directly access the data from outside of the class.
Correct. So this is the previous day's diagram. Thanks, Uday, for helping that with that definition. Yes, that's perfectly right. Right. So what have you seen? Encapsulation on the other day, we looked at the C++ versus Java, C and C++ journey, where C was mostly procedure oriented, where C++ was object oriented. And as well, we said C was talking more of functions, procedures or functions, whereas C++ was talking more of methods and data. And most importantly, we looked at the global data, right? Wherein the data could be inadvertently modified if that was shared by more than one function and the data is kept common globally. Then there is a possibility that the data can be tamed or mutated without the knowledge of others. Then there is a risk of losing the sanity of the data. So that is when C++, the object-oriented programming systems, right, came with the concept of protecting your data, securing your data. How do you secure? You keep the data secure with a controlled access. That's when we have access specifiers came into picture, where we have public, private, protected default, right? We discussed at length. I'm not going to go to the details of it. It is there in the previous day's lectures. People whoever missed it or couldn't be a part of it, like Rajati and Siva, whoever had newly joined, and people like Teja, whoever did not, or Uday could not take part due to various obvious or genuine reasons, please rewatch the sessions in the YouTube channel, right? So this is what we're gonna look at it. Yeah. So OOP characteristics, where we have data abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. Polymorphism we covered a bit earlier yesterday, like method compile time polymorphism or static binding, right? Or early binding. Now today we're gonna look at encapsulation. Abstraction is again a principle which says you should say about what you are doing, but not how you are doing, like interfaces, how you program. It should only be focusing on what you do, whereas you can conceal the implementation details, which is for the security purpose as well, right? You don't need to necessarily inform your clients as to how you are operating, but rather you can just say what you do. It's like the API contract. Like take an yesterday's example, right? Eatable, talkable. What did the interface method do in yesterday's class? What did we talk about that? I hope you must have taken a look at this method, the snapshot, right? If you look at the interface, what does it say? It just only says the signature, am I right?
Yeah,
Does it
Yeah,
ever
reading the
talk?
behavior.
Correct. It's an abstraction. Abstraction means you hide out the implementation details. You only say what is that you are doing. You don't say how you are performing. The internal implementations you don't need to show. It's as good as you go to a restaurant, right? You order a food. Whom do you order?
Waiter.
To the waiter or the chef? Or do you go to the extent of talking to the cook and going to the kitchen and giving to the order to the cook directly?
No.
No.
Why do you think it is not followed generally?
There's
We
already a
don't have direct
mediator
access to go
available.
to meet and shift that work.
Okay, sorry, Lasia first, please.
There's already a mediator available who can communicate between customer and the cook.
Very good. Okay. Is there anything else?
But we are not worried about what is going on. We just need the end product to be delivered.
Okay, which is probably Rajaji, that's a good input. Can you elaborate it?
Yeah, probably we are giving the order and we are very much interested in this, like what is being delivered to us, but we are not interested like how it is being cooked or those. We are not in need of those details at that point of time.
That's correct. The kitchen may not be exposed to the general public. They may keep it clumsy, or they may have their own structure to keep the things, etc. But all what you focus is your end product. You just order for a food and wait in your place where you are given, and the food once get delivered, it's served to you. That's all. The place where the execution happens, it's their private zone, private area. Is it clear? And the cook may not be able to understand your language. He may be from a different proportion, and you may not govern or direct the cook by your choice, right? Maybe your language, your style of communication may not really suit the cook, but that is where we have a mediator to help you. So it is getting abstracted, right? What is the example we have? In a restaurant, we just order the food to the waiter or what? Bearer, right? And not to the cook inside the kitchen. Why? The reason being, we are focused on the food, actual food, and not on the ingredients and or the way of cooking. The internals basically in the kitchen. Yes or no? Another example is in Java, we use typically, right, interfaces to just mention what is the behavior, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Where does the implementation classes go? Implementation go? It goes inside the classes implementing the interface. Make sense? They call it as abstraction or data abstraction. Doesn't matter. You just tell what it is supposed to be known to the user and hide out the internal implementations. That's all about it. Now, these days, we also use the modern days, we use REST API, right? Our earlier days, we use SOAP.
Okay.
What do? Using which we just expose the functionalities that just say what it is, what services are available to consume, right? And not how they are implemented. Make sense? More like a contract. This is also API first programming, we say. It's a contract. It says an abstracted way. It says what, not how. Make sense?
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Abstraction. Now let's go to
Yes, Raghavan.
encapsulation. What is an encapsulation now?
Securing the data.
Yes, we have already seen. Encapsulation means we have a way to protect our data by means of our access specifiers. Yes or no? Is what it is. You can read it out. One of the characteristics of OOPS, object-oriented programming systems, used to protect the data by means of the access specifier. Yes or no?
Yes, Raghu. Yes.
What are the access specifiers we have? Private,
Public,
Private.
Private, public,
Default.
default, protected.
default.
Okay, let's follow one order. Always, I would say either you start from the more restricted to less restricted, or less restricted to more restricted. Don't just jump. I'll tell you why. It gives you a better understanding as well. Follow that in an order, like how we have looked at it here as well, right? What do we say here? Here, private, default, protected, public. So private is only within the class, only within the class. Default is only within that package, any class, same package. Protected is subclass, any package, class and subclass, any package. Public is open to all, right? Likewise, we have the access specifiers: private, protected, default, public, right? Or default, protected, public, you could do that. More secure to less secure. Using which, what are we gonna say? Where do we apply this access specifiers? They are called access specifiers. We already discussed what is an access specifier. Access means the way to facilitate the data retrieval. Specifier means it's a formula or it's a rule. So the keyword or the, what do you call, the rule that governs how the data is supposed to be accessed, that specifies, right? So how to access the data with a private access? Okay, let's say you give private. That's what we talk about, right? The data should be kept private, right? Encapsulation. What do you mean by encapsulation? Encapsule, if you look at it, capsule. That is where the word encapsulation came from. So what's the difference between a tablet and capsule, sir?
Capsule, it's little secure.
Tablet is
Capsule
open
is
and
very binded
Yeah.
inside.
Exactly, right? So what you can do, the word encapsulation is tightly associated with the word capsule. What do we get it from a capsule?
Secure.
Just secure. Is covered. Yes or no?
Yes.
We know that for this disease, this is the capsule. We don't know what is inside it.
Exactly. That is also the very good point, right? And
Yes.
the capsule does not reveal the actual medicine inside. You just get to see the outer portion. What is that? Basically, the cover and the color. That's all. Yes or no? Encapsulation. So you are, so ultimately the definition, what you do, putting together the properties and behaviors in a single unit, that is nothing but class, right? With the right access specifiers. That is what is called as, what it is called as?
Encapsule.
Encapsulation, capsule, right?
Yes.
Is it better, right? You can have a better understanding. Now, when you say typically what access specifier we can better specify to a member of a class. Now that we have been talking about secured access, restricted access to the members of a class. So which access specifier will be more appropriate, do you think?
Private.
Private.
Private we can do because it's
Private.
giving only access to the class.
Do you have any other choice? Okay, agreed. I heard private from a couple of you. Do you have any other options? Anybody thinks otherwise? Okay. If there are no other alternates, yes, one who have guessed is right. Private is the most suited access specifier to the member because it's a closed container. It should be totally kept secured. Until otherwise, we have a valid reason to decide any other access specifier. By default, they are supposed to get a private access. That's why the next question comes. How to access the data with a private access? If you keep the data private, we have looked at it yesterday, right? Yes or no, the classes? Yes or
By
no?
using public method.
Right. Let's take student.java, right? Did we have student? Person.java. What did we declare it, sir? Yesterday we have declared, but I have not discussed in detail. What have we declared? The access specified to the variables?
Private.
Private.
we declare as
So
private.
assume it is declared as private. What do we talk about? If it is private, where is accessibility? Who can access
Only
it?
within the
Only
class.
within the class.
Do you think we have also discussed this one, right? Single responsibility principle. So do you think it is always viable to define or to lock the access of a member variable with the private? And you also talk about, the test class, even to begin with, we would like to have a test class kept separate with the main method, where we want to retain the class as a standalone unit with its own properties and methods. Put together, it's called members. If you lock this access as private, how do you think the main method, which is a separate class, yes or no? This is student.java, this is test student.java. So if you keep the accessibility restricted as private, meaning that can be accessible only within the class, same class, then how do you think we can access the value or the member from a different class? Is the question clear?
Yes, sir. Then in this case, the default will be the good one.
Okay, very good. Anything else? That's a good thought. Again, Lakshmi, it's not always. Why default is a good one? As
Because it
long
will be
as,
the same package.
if at all, what if you want to keep a different package? That's my next topic of discussion today, packages. What if you want to keep a different package?
Then we need to protect it, and child class and parent class relationship should be maintained.
So would you really, just because of accessing this data from this class, would you really think of keeping the test class as a child class of parent class? Did we do it yesterday?
No, sir.
So what is your choice then?
Using
Static.
methods, sir.
Wait, Shiva, hold on. Yeah. So Lakshmi, obviously we are getting pushed to public, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
Forcefully pushing.
Thank you very much for your good participation as always, Lakshmi. Right? Which is what typically we all developers tend to think of, and we get into the default zone of declaring everything as public. But is it again? We are back to square one. Do you think keeping the data public is safe? That's a whole lot of problem we have discussed, right? Then what is the very main purpose of keeping the data secured with the controlled access? That is what the history of object-oriented programming system started. Yes or no? In fact, I have started once again with the same concept as a revision of the topic that we discussed a while ago. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So it should actually confuse you. It should confuse you. If you are confused, then you are in the middle of a good learning. Okay. So Shiva made good point, but I'll just hold on. Before I go with that actual explanation, do you have any other thoughts? Anybody? If I keep the data members private, then what do I do? How do I access? See, we have already discussed this, right? Good that we already discussed. We keep a test method separately. So it's a separate class altogether. One option is we keep it same package. Yes, default may make sense. What if I don't keep a same package? Then you'll be forced to make it as child class, inheritance. But I don't think it is making any sense to keep the test class as a child class of a parent of the main class. No, not at all. They have to have some common characteristics, like, person, student, like vehicle, a common vehicle class, and then say two-wheeler or four-wheeler, etc. There has to be a sharing of properties between two classes. Until otherwise, there is no need of doing something called inheritance. That's probably a discussion for another day. I don't want to take everything today, right? So then, are we supposed to make everything as public? Are we all clear with this topic so far, everybody?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Right. But we don't need to. Ultimately, if this thought is pushing us to keep the data access to the ultimate global access specifier as public, then we are no longer serving our purpose. That is where the savior, the rescue to that is encapsulation. What do they say? you keep your data private on top of it. Like how exactly a capsule works, guys? A capsule, how is the unit is being, if at all you look at it? Can anybody tell me that? How do you have a capsule?
It is covered with some like powders,
Covered with what?
like proper medicine, like
Medicine is
should be.
fine.
Wrapper.
Medicine is wrapper is fine. Okay, then no, you are missing one fundamental. That's why I asked this question. While I'm looking for the right image, we're missing something fundamental here. So why do we talk about?
It's object.
Okay, anything else? Not just that. Not
This
just
data, so exactly what it is that we are hiding, like data or value.
that. Okay, then anything else?
It is basically an envelope, sir.
Envelope is right, single unit is right, say cover, security is all. How does a capsule look like? Probably I'll ask you the question differently.
Cylindrical, strong way.
Cylinder.
One is cylinder, right? Then that's okay, good. Anything else?
Which is strong enough to protect the material inside.
Most likely a capsule will be partitioned like this. Yes, sir?
Yeah, 2 parts. Yes, right.
This
We
is
can-
what
we
I'm
can-
asking that, right?
Yeah, if we want to break, we can easily break it. If
Yes.
not
What do you call
break,
this
actually,
as?
we can.
What is this?
what we can
Two
say is
portions, one top portion,
Unhold,
bottom portion, and you can also link it together like this. Yes or no?
Yes, unhold. We can do.
Yes or no, guys?
Yeah, that's right.
So this top portion is given for basically, what is that? Think of data. What is that?
Data.
What is data?
In our say, like instance variables or values where
Members.
we are storing
Member. This is nothing but what we already declared here.
number.
First is the member variable or property. What is next? Goes without saying.
Methods.
Exactly. What is that? Methods.
Methods.
So this is how you look at what typically. What do you say this as? This is called what?
Encapsulation.
Encapsulation. Capsule as an unit, right?
Yeah.
Capsule as an unit, and we have two portions, and they are covered, wrapped, and most important, somebody said, what is the most important feature? The traits of a capsule, what do we have it? The traits of a capsule is what? Guys, it's very simple. Don't get confused. A capsule does what?
Normal compound.
A capsule is actually concealed. What do you mean by concealed? English meaning concealed is what? Guys?
No.
Not allowed to be seen or hidden. That's a better word, a good word. You could
Yeah.
say hidden.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
not allowed to
concealed,
be seen. Yeah.
correct. More like what you put a black color tape, insulated tape. In the car windows also you do that for sunshade protected, right? But what is that? It is. Why do you do that for? The concealed, what benefit do you get from that?
Hiding.
Protection.
Hiding.
Protection.
Hiding, exactly. Protection and hiding. You hide what is internally present. You only get to see the outer cover. Clear? What is that?
Hiding.
Internal data or details are hidden to the person outside. That is all we say. That's a trait of a capsule. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That's a trait of a capsule. Encapsulation. Let's go back here. So how do I access now?
Through public
So we
methods,
have
we can-
two, exactly. The method should be public because we keep the data as private. We want to have a method. There is a Jodi, two sets of methods, right? A set of methods are available. They are typically called as getter and setter. We generally say that. They also have a different name. It's a very old name from Java Beans, other technologies. They are also called as accessor and mutator. If you look at it, accessor means what? One which helps us to access the data. Access means retrieve, fetch, get, access. What do you mean by mutate?
Modification.
Exactly. Change, update, modify. That's called a mutate. Change in the form of nature. So that's also another word. People use it as mutator, but not very modern days. It's a older legacy word, but that's still a good word. It's called accessor and mutator, right? But most often everybody gets used to the terms called getter and setter. So what is a getter or accessor? A getter method, as its name indicates, should have the form get xxxx, meaning you get the value of where the term get indicates that it is used to get or access or retrieve the value of a particular field, which is xxx. Is it clear?
Yes.
However, it should better follow the camel case. What is the camel case? First word should be all in lowercase. Mean get is all in full lowercase. The very first word, no matter how long it is. Then the first letter of every other word should be in capital case for a better readability. Like a camel, it has got a hump on its shoulder, right? So likewise, if you have a very long string, it is easy for you to have a better readability. Like an underscore or separator, what you have, punctuation mark, you have it. So for example, the getter method of a property name should be declared as what? Get name. You understand? Name is a property, but you capitalize this as a first word should be all lowercase. First letter of every subsequent word should be capital name. Clear? This is called camel case, and that's a recommendation to be followed for any method in Java. Getter setter is not an exception. Okay. And the getter method for the member or variable named first name. See, even how did I declare the first name? You look at it. First name. First word, all is all in lowercase, and the first letter of the subsequent word, every other word should be capital. First name should be declared as get first name. You look at it. Now the F has become capital. Why?
Because get came first before the.
Correct. Now F is the second word. So obviously the first letter in the first letter of the word is become capital because we do have one word before to the word term. First, we have another word called get. That is all in lowercase. That's a convention. Any questions on this? It's so simple. Very simple and elementary level, right? And visibility. What should I have a visibility? The visibility of this getter member or method should be public. Why?
To get access from other classes.
Exactly.
Yeah, from anywhere we can access.
Exactly. Right? Getter member or getter method. Yes or no? So what is my visibility? It should be public to serve its purpose, meaning to facilitate the access of a private member variable from outside. Outside means what? Outside of?
Class.
Outside. Where? What is the class here? We talk about the container, the unit,
Yeah.
the covered unit, encapsulated unit, shielded unit, protected unit, hidden unit, whatever you call it as. Clear? Right. Now, what is a return type? A method should also have a return type, right? Function or a method should have a return type. Yes or no?
Yes.
What
Yes.
should it be? Needless to
According to
say,
the data type.
exactly which field you are trying to access. What is the purpose of a getter? You want to access a particular data type, particular member variable, right? Meaning here, properties, particular property. If it is string, the getter method should also be of type string because you are going to return the value as string, correct? If it is integer, the data, the member variable, the property that you are planning to access is the integer, then the getter method should also be of integer. Clear? The return type. So that's how it is all about. Now we see an example, getter example. What do we have here? Public class getter example, private, all of them are private, string, first name, last name, and age. Getter for first name, what do I do? Public visibility, string, the return type. Why? Because get first name is of type string. So I have to declare the method's return type as string. Return is a keyword. It is returning a value back to the caller. This dot first name. What is the first name? The property I'm returning. And this is a public method using which I can access the value of this property from outside the class. Is it clear? Just return the value of the field in question. What is the field in question now? First name. So we return this dot first name. Likewise, getter for age, public, obviously it has to be int because the value of the data type is int, what we access. The data type of the value is int, integer. Get age, get all small case, age A capital, and return this of age. Any questions on this? One portion of encapsulation that we have covered here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then why we use this pointer or reference? Can we not use just first name? Is it mandatory that we should use this?
Yes, sir. Because it holds the current running object.
Very good, Lakshmi. That's the right answer, but not 100%.
So, but
You
here one
don't-
doubt for the getter should be used to distribute. That is not mandatory.
Exactly. So this is a recommended. This always, as Lakshmi said rightly, this always indicates as a current object in question, the object on which I invoke this method. So that is why this indicates. So why do you use this? Is a best practice. Without this also, it is exactly the same. It will return the value of the object on which it is because it's an instance method, right? But it's always no harm in using this reference to any instance data. The data pertaining to that particular object is always good to use this. Is as good as that, right? When you enter the office premises, you show the ID card, yes or no? Why do we show that flash? Why do we use that ID card during the entry of the premises?
To give the access.
To get your access, the flash card, right? But is it mandatory to wear the ID card and access card throughout the day when you are present in the office?
Oh, no, that's not okay.
But is there anything harm if you still wear it?
No.
That's how it goes, right? It doesn't do any harm, but it's the best practice. If you want to wear it, it's always good. Okay.
So it will not
Now
change
this-
any difference, right? Value
No,
will not change.
Doesn't see whether you wear it when you are inside, when you are sitting inside on your seat. You wear the ID card or not doesn't matter. But if you wear it, it's good to have. Here it always avoids the confusion that you are accessing the instance variable, right? It'll be more clear when you talk about the static data later in the next topic, right? Next, is the example also clear? What we discussed?
Yes, clear.
Yes, clear, sir.
All right. Let's talk about setter or mutator. That's as good as a getter. Only thing is, what are the differences? It should start with a set because it's a setter. Method starts with the set xxx, the value. Xxx is the field name in camel case whose value we want to set or update or mutate or change. We're gonna modify, right? Method name should follow the camel case. Example, set name, set first name, similar to what we have discussed earlier, right? I think I should do that as well. Give me a minute. Yeah. Because it's a method, right? Okay. All right. Then what should we have? Method visibility should be definitely public to save its purpose because it's an encapsulated unit. Caveat, there is one thing. You can ignore the setter method totally. For what situation? If you don't, sorry.
Whenever we are using constructor, we can ignore the setter method. In constructor itself, we are setting the values.
Okay. No. That's a different thought process altogether, Lakshmi. There is one caveat. When you don't want to have a setter of a property in the class means you don't want to accommodate any change in the value, meaning that's a read-only property. If it is read-only, you don't provide the setter. That means what? If you try to modify the value, you don't have a way to modify, then it will be rejecting that. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Setter is
We
a
already we given the value when we
correct.
created the variable.
Correct.
the
So
same
that's a
value we-
caveat, right? And the method should accept the value here. Getter is returning. You don't need to take a parameter argument. But setter, should it require a value from the user or not?
Yes.
For sure. So it should accept the value as a parameter of the same type or compatible type, right? Compatible type as a of a member. Oh, sorry, I forgot to share this news with other students. Ramakrishna College. My bad. It's only probably that's fine. Hey Ragesh, thanks for joining. Can you hear me? Ragesh? Ragesh, can you hear me? Okay, I don't know. Probably he is outside. Yeah. And the return type, what should be the return type of it? Of this setter method should be void. Why?
Because it all doesn't return anything.
Exactly. It should just get the data, but it does not return you anything. As it is not expected to return anything, instead it's just to accept the new or changed value of a member variable, which is passed as an argument to the method. Clear? So what do we have here? Setter example, public. The visibility should be definitely public. Void is a return type because I am not intended to return you anything, but just to do something and keep quiet. What is that doing something? To accept the new value what you send to me as a parameter. There is a string which is of the same data type or compatible data type. String first name, that's the exact, most likely we tend to have the same data type matching with this value, what it is declared. I receive a new value for the member variable first name and I assign it to this. What am I assigning here? You look at it. This dot first name is equal to first name. Now, which first name belongs to what? Can somebody tell me? What is this first name? What is this first name?
One is the local variable will be considered, and
Which one?
this dot first
Right side
this dot
local,
first
left
name
side
will be
instance.
considered the object one.
Very good. Exactly. What is the equation? From the value what is present in the right hand side should have to be assigned to the variable in the left hand side. That's a basic mathematics, correct? So the value that we receive as a parameter, we want to assign this to the member variable of the object that is in question, which we want to access it via this dot. Make sense? Here as well, if you don't do this dot, then there is a confusion typically. It might still work. Take an assignment, you try to remove this and see what happens. Right? Same way, same way set age. You pass the data type as integer because age is of type int. This dot age equal to age. Make sense?
Yes.
Right. Now, let's look at the program. How many programs do you have? Two programs, exactly what you have seen. Right? Did it get compiled? I don't need to execute it. Did it get compiled?
Yes, we have getters and setters class. Yeah.
Exactly. The class gets compiled successfully means what?
We will
802.
get the class file. Yeah.
Oh,
So the classes are working as expected, right? I don't need to really put a test class and get it all. You can try that, right? Let's say probably let's do that. Test getter setter. Public class test getter setter. Right? What do I do now? Getter example G equal to new getter example. Is that clear?
Yes.
Let me first declare the getter before I go to the setter. Assume GE. In the getter example, what values I had? Member variables. First name. Yes or no?
First name. Yeah.
Then we also had what?
Last name.
All right.
Then age. Yeah.
and age. Let's say I give this. Yes or no? What am I trying to do?
Getting the name.
Creating an instance. Then what am I doing? That's good, Vijay. Good. What am I doing in this step?
Getting the value.
Getting,
Value.
getting,
Value. Values.
yes or no?
Value.
Directly. Trying to assign or store the values to the members directly to the instance. Yes or no?
Yes.
That's what I do. Now I try to do that. Now what do you see the error? Is it compiled successfully?
No.
Did it compile successfully?
It's a private access, so
No.
we cannot directly give the access. Means we cannot directly change the value.
Correct. And what does it say typically? Line number
Because,
9.
The members
Same
are
as-
declared as private.
Correct. That's right, Rajan. The members are declared as private. That's the exact proof that we have been seeing. If a member is declared as private in a class, it can be accessible only from within the same
Within the
class.
class.
Now, where am I trying to access it? The
From
testing
different
class.
class we are trying to.
Different class, right? So what am I doing now? I'm trying to access the value variable from a class which is outside the class. It's a different class. So does it allow? It says private access. You cannot do this. For 3 parameters, it says that, correct? First name, last name, age. Yes or no?
Yes.
For a change, I try to do this. What I'm going to do?
Changing the.
Assuming that this to public now. What will happen? Any guess?
That's the value of first name.
Sorry, Rajati, I'm not able to hear you very clearly. I don't know whether it's only for me, for others as well. I don't know.
No,
It would accept the value for the first name alone.
Very good. Right? When I try to compile, if you look at it, the error is reduced now. Why? The error has been reported only for
private variable.
the variables which are still retained as private. That is last name and age. But what happened to that my first name? Why it doesn't show an error? Because it is public. It can be accessible from outside the class. Clear?
Yes.
Now I go here. I retain this. I don't need to do this. I retain this back. Why I still get that? Okay. Now I don't even need to compile it. It's got it. Is it clear, guys? The example?
Yes.
So now I get back 3 errors. So what should I ideally be doing now?
Want to access, then we have to create setter methods.
Because they are declared with what?
Private.
Private
Sorry,
access.
within the private access.
Right? So what do we, okay, let me do one more thing before I go there, just for the sake of it, right? Let me copy this. Getter example.java. I say getter example test.java, right? With the test.java. So what do I do now? With the test. Now what can I do? I do type the same main method here. You get me what I'm doing?
Yes, yes, sir. We are making, we are giving the access to the same class. With the same.
Yeah. Now what do I do now?
You have to create the object. In terms of object also we can.
No, we need an object. We are talking about instance. Okay, that's a good question, Uday. These are all with object-oriented programming. What is that? All these characters are associated with what?
Object-oriented programming.
Object. Instance or object. So do you ever have to do anything if you don't have an object?
No, should not do, but we can do.
No. How can you say both? In this example, the properties, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, abstraction, right? Typically, do they survive or exist without a concept of an object?
No, sir, as they are not static.
Exactly. Not about static. They have to be an instance, object. You need to create an object. Without create an object, they don't exist at all. Uday, that's a wrong concept. You need to have an object instance because they are a property of object-oriented programming system. So you should have an object. Straightforward, what do you call no-brainer math it is all about, correct?
Yeah.
Right. There's an unnecessary confusion. Okay. What's your last name, Uday?
Kumar, Uday Kumar KV.
Okay. How young are you?
31.
Okay. Any confusion on this class, guys? As always, dead silent. People don't even respond.
No,
we
sir,
don't.
clear, clear.
Right. So you understand what I'm doing, right? So let me do this. Did you give any error in compilation? Obviously, I didn't print it. Did the class get compiled or not?
It got
Yes, sir.
compiled
It's a successful compilation.
Why do you think so?
because we are
It
trying to
didn't
access
throw
the
any error.
private numbers within the same class.
Exactly. That is the best bet. That's the actual differentiation you need to understand. In this class, I am still trying to access the private member. All these are declared as private. I'm trying to access the private member and trying to give a direct value, but it does not throw an error during compilation. Is it because I am trying to access it from within the same class? So go by the fact only within the class the private members are accessible, right? Whereas I try to do test getter setter.java, it is not possible because I try to access it from outside the class. The getter example.java is a separate method, separate class where it has got all of them private, and I cannot access it directly in a different class. So what is my only source here? Only other way what I can do?
Using
Here,
the
just
set
this.
methods.
Exactly. So what should we do? As the test class is outside the actual class, we should use the
Setter
getter of
method.
setter. Right. Now what do you do? GESA dot set first name of say that one. Let me just, and I don't have a last name. Set, not sorry. I don't have a getter, right? My bad. Give me a minute. Okay, we don't, that example itself is not good enough. Why?
You have to add their own set of remaining fields.
No, that is okay. I don't have a way to add the data at all. That is what Lakshmi told. What should I have?
We can use constructor to initialize all the
Exactly.
values.
Exactly. What should I do now? I use constructor. This dot first name equal to, I say default first name. I don't know what name I can give it anymore, right? This dot last name equal to default last name. This dot age equal to 0. Obviously, I want to give a default age as 0, right? What can I also do? One more thing. Everybody is keeping silent, huh?
Yeah, no,
Guys,
okay.
you got to be interactive and sharing your knowledge, what you know. You are not just a blind audience. You are not watching a live show. It's not a stand-up comedy or anything, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Dragon. Yeah.
That is the only other way you ascertain what you are grasping. So I could do this as well. Yes or no?
Yes.
Dragon, we
Yes,
give
Dragon, yeah.
both the names getter exam, both the method names. Second one is setter, right?
No, this is getter only. I'm only looking at it now. Setter, we need to have one more. It's only with the getter example I'm doing it. Now I can add this as well. Right? public string get last name so that it is complete.
So in getter, we are taking the parameters.
Yeah,
Why
that is the
getter? That's a
constructor.
constructor. Uday.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. That's again a good question. No worries.
Just missed it because my baby came.
No problem. No problem. So the class got compiled. Getter example.java. I have given all. Now what can I do? Test getter.java. What can I do now?
We can use
Correct. What can I do now? Simply system.out.println ge dot
All the getter.
get
Okay.
first name. Right? Yes or no? It will print me a default value. Correct?
Yes.
Get last name. Then
Gauge.
yes. Here you get default first name, default last name, 0. Yes or no?
Yes.
This is how I access a private member of the class from outside the class. Clear?
but if we don't give like the default values, then it is supposed to be an empty constructor, right? So then does it not print the default?
It
Does
will
it
print null, I feel.
Yes.
No. Is that what you are saying, Rajati? If you
Yeah,
don't give this
yeah.
default value, what will happen? Correct? It will
Yeah,
print the
because
default
it is
value. It will print the default value. Null.
Okay.
Null and 0.
Null 0.
Why I don't get the
Compile.
value?
Compile.
What I didn't compile? What class should I have compiled? The class where I made the change, right?
Yes.
You see here, Rajati, it's again a no-brainer thing.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So Raghavan, before this getter and setter, how in the industry people are handling it? Or by the day one only we are forced to use getter and setter?
Yes, it is. That's a good question.
Decade of experience, because the moment when we started our career, we know this is a standard we have to follow, getter and setter.
Correct. That's a good question, Dhananjay. I'm glad you're asking this because this is from the beginning of Java, object-oriented programming, when it was introduced. So there is no other way where you could access it. By when these properties were defined, the getter setters were present even from C++ days. Getters and setters. You have a get, you have a set, using which only you could. That's how it is channelized. The data can be accessed through the getter or setter, not directly if it is declared as a private. Okay, great.
Thanks, sir.
No problem. Thanks. Yeah. So let's now go look at the setter as well and complete this and go to the static. So I would use this setter example also. And I would paste this here. All right. So what should I change here? That's it. Any change apart from that? No, right? Then I need to have 1, 2, 3, 4. What is this for?
Last name.
Parameters also.
Is there a problem?
Parameter.
No, it is just a local parameter. Can be anything. You can even name it as X, Y, Z.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, but generally we give it as
variable name is capital. The instance.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's right. Thanks. This is wrong. Purposefully retaining the parameter name as different, since it can be anything. All right, as it can be anything, sorry, not since. It need not be the same as a member variable. And it can be anything, any valid legal identifier. That is how we keep it. Make sense? Java C, set example.java. What happened? Why?
Oh,
Something was not closed. Line 39. Yeah, extra parameter. That's one. Don't get confused, okay? Something would have gone wrong. Public void set age, int age is already defined in set example. Okay. Okay, maybe it's already there. Okay, I copied it twice. All right. Now let me go to test getter setter Java. What should I do, sir? Now
Create an instance for setter example.
right, exactly. Setter example. I name it as SC and setter example. This time, rather than okay. Now I think it makes sense. We can do this right for getter example. Let's do Ragesh. Ragesh, you are still there? I'm gonna use the second constructor. Here I get it. Okay. So they joined and I think they left. Vijay, no problem. So what do I do? I don't need to do anything. SC dot set first name. Okay, Vijay, what is your second last name, Vijay?
Raja.
Raja, Vijay R, right?
Yes, sir.
How old are you? Sweet 18.
18.
Okay, great. So what I'm doing now? I'm just making a change here so that I invoke a value what I set it. I don't want to get a default value. Here, let it be default, but I'm setting this here, right? Maybe I can do this as well once again. What can I do? 3 lines, I can paste it exactly.
Print the value.
So here instead of SC, I say G, I say SC. What is SC? Setter example variable. Okay, what happened? Oh, I don't have a getter. My bad. Okay. Let me comment it out right now. Because then the setter example, I don't have a getter method, right?
Yes.
I'll do that later. First, let's do this. Okay. Now it is compiled. Now what do I do? Ragesh Kumar 24. Why? That's the first example. Second, after we setting, we don't print anything. If you look at it. First, Ragesh Kumar 24, we are printing.
Just
Getters.
looking with the
For setter, we don't do anything. It's just taken the print, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
What you can do here, typically, just want to give something to prompt to the user. You can say that.
ToString.
One, you can use a toString, very good, Lakshmi, or you can simply say the values are successfully set to the properties of the instance using setter methods. This also you could do, or if you have, that's a good way. One more thing, what you could do, just SC. If you want SC to be invoked, what should you do? Now, if you simply call test getter setter, what you get? This is what you get. You know that, right? Class name @ hash code. So in order to avoid that, what you do?
toString method will.
Obviously, what you do that here? Because you want to see the properties value, right? You say @ overrides and annotation, public string toString. What do we return here? Return, we say setter example name equal to this dot name. Can I call this dot get name here? Sorry, get first name. My bad.
No, it's not required. We can directly call with this name, right?
How many will vote for this flavor and how many will vote for the second one?
No, we should not use get.
That is given to access from outside. We can call, but we can't. We can use normal also, right?
Now, if you will pay attention, There are 3 flavors I'm using it. Can somebody tell me? 3 different flavors I'm accessing it. Who is going to be the volunteer?
Yes, sir.
This
Like
is
we are using
Through the
getter.
method is one.
Second one is the good one. Actually.
First name method, right?
40, line number 42 is I think it's a good one actually.
But do you all agree that every line has got a different flavor?
Yes, sir.
Here I'm invoking a getter method with respect to this.
Just keyword.
Here I'm just calling the parameter name. Here I'm calling the parameter with respect to this. Assuming I have one more parameter I want to call just to get first name without this pointer, right? Needless to say, all of them are equal. Absolutely, there is no difference to the compiler. But this is the shortest form possible. You save your keystrokes. But the best practice is either you use this or you use this. That's the most recommended. Because you are always preferring to use encapsulation. Whenever you use this, you are calling the object and then call the method. If you use this, you are using encapsulation. If you're using this, you are going with just object-oriented programming. If you're using this, you are somewhere, just in anywhere, right?
But
You are not.
By default, whatever if you see Eclipse or whenever you try to generate the toString,
You have an option,
the,
sir. You have an option. I'll show you that. You have an option. Let me tell you here. Let's assume I use Spring Tool Suite here. Spring Tool Suite. You could use anything. Let me create a getter setter example. All right. So I use a comment, whatever it is. You see that? Then I use private string first name. Same parameter, last name, private int age. Yes or no? Now it shows an error because it says that they are with the side effect is not used. You go right click, source, generate getters setters. Do you see that? Number 1. Then you see toString, this method.
Yes.
Here, please pay attention. Everything is customized. When you do that, where you want to do, see string format, what you want to hold, code style. And wait a minute, inherited methods also you have. I think there is an option. Method comments is fine. In IntelliJ, I think you have string. Okay, here concatenation. This is for toString. I remember there is a way you could customize it here.
Maybe in IntelliJ, but Eclipse it doesn't have, I think.
Okay.
But I used to generate it. So
you get an option whether you use a getter setter or the variables directly. But I would recommend. So okay, let's go it here. Let's do that here. Let's complete it. Source generate toString. Constructor is fine. toString you go. Okay, why? Because I don't have a getter setter here. Wait, I have not generated the getter setter. First, you generate the getter and setter. Okay. All right. Select all. It gives a public. You say fields in getter setter pass generated. So I've got a getter setter generated. Now I go source generate toString. See inherited methods and methods also came now. Right? Using this also you could do that. If you do that, okay. Let me generate 2 things separately. I remove the methods. I just follow generate. I get this because I use a builder pattern. I remove this. I don't do this. Source, generate toString, remove the code style, string concatenation. That's the default, which we generally do plus.
Yes.
You do this. This is what we have done, what we have discussed right now.
Yeah,
right?
This is what, okay.
The flavor, what you discussed as well. This is a old style legacy. Kabutar ki zamana. शुरुआत में जब हमने चालू किए थे, like when we started using it, this is what it started with, right? Now let me rename this as toString1. I remove this.
Override.
It is yet another method now. Now I come here, I generate one more toString method, but I choose a methods here, not inherited method. You see inherited, you get this toString superclass, right? Let me just give this toString method on the inherited. All of you, please pay attention. We discussed about super yesterday. Now I click generate, the string concatenation.
And,
do you see that here? not hash code. You see super dot toString because I clicked toString method in the inheritance, right? Source, the generate toString.
But what it will print actually if I say super.toString?
If at all the parent class has got any other toString, it will concatenate that as. It will get you both.
But by default,
to-
it will print something hash code, right? Right now, if you'll print it or.
Dhananjay, that's the rule is common. If this class doesn't have any superclass, where it will go? Rule is default superclass. If that superclass has got an overdone implementation of a toString, it will call that. If not, by default, it will call the default implementation, which is nothing but get class.get name at the rate of, where do you have it here?
Integer dot 2 hex string of hash code.
Exactly. I don't know here that shortcuts are gone. Whether it is Control Shift T. Yeah. Object, right? Even you click here, super.toString, where it goes, implementation. Which class it has taken me, Dhananjay?
Object.
Where am I? Object.class, it goes get class.get name at the rate of integer.tox string. This is what by default it's gonna print.
Yes.
Whenever I invoke it. All right. This is another flavor, I may remove it. Now I go source, generate toString. Here I don't choose. Now this also methods came. I use this. Only choose these three methods. String concatenation. I skip that inherited methods. I do generate. Now what do you see here?
Okay, so you added
all of you, please pay attention. Do you get to see that?
Yes, sir.
What do you get to see?
I
added both
the getters and
methods and parameters.
Yes. So what does it print? Okay, let me remove this. It's confusing rather. Let me go back. Generate. Source. Generate toString. I don't remove the fields, only the methods.
Then it will come all the methods.
Here I don't say toString, right? Typically, I would like to use hash code. That's what I would prefer. I take this. So this is a perfect or good toString. You get it? If you remember, I always advertise and advocate using hash code because you want to have a uniqueness of an object, runtime memory. This is what I told you. So most often the cases, Dhananjay, you wouldn't have got the getter setter generated. You would have been generating the toString ahead of time. So you don't have an option. This is what I told you. Clear?
Yes.
So you have a lot more customizations you could do, but it doesn't use this pointer. But if I use this, does it do anything wrong? Even if we do this, where it is gonna go? It is to the this only. So it is always wearing an ID card every time you are present in the office. Even to the washroom also you wear it and go. But it doesn't do any harm. But it gives you a good clue that you are a good object-oriented programmer because you're always referring an object to the current object in question using the this keyword. So this will give you the full marks, 100% marks.
Yes, Raghu.
Makes sense? Is the question doubt clear?
Yes,
all of us are clear? Wonderful. I think one concept is we spend time. So are we good now, guys? Setter example, we are clear. Now, okay, I printed this 3 different flavor. Let me complete this example. Java C, setter example.java. Why? What happened? Get first name. Why? Cannot find symbol. What do you want? Why? Okay, get first name I don't have, right? Okay, in the interest of time, we don't have that get. What I do? I just call this. Yes, I call this from a variable reference. All right, it got compiled. Now, can I do that? This getter setter. You see that? Older example, right? Where it just printed only this. We were able to give a toString meaningful implementation and we are able to see what is the value that we are setting. Vijay Raja 18. Clear, guys? Any questions?
No. Yeah.
Let's move to the next topic. It's very easy, not to static members, right? What do you mean by static when you want to use it, right? So far, we have been always discussing about an instance or an object. From a blueprint of a class, we produce objects that occupy a space in memory. We give the unique characteristics, that is, property and behavior of an object. It possesses some characteristics and it exhibits some behaviors or methods. What it operates, the functions, right? That's what we have seen it so far. But there are cases where you want to talk about something in common at the class level, not at an instance level, a global. Assuming there are, let's take a school example, sir. Right? The students, where do they study? We always talk about student.java, right? Yes or no? Student.java. Guys, I'm
Yes,
asking
sir.
a question, right?
Right.
In
Yeah.
which whenever you declare a name, age, gender, class, all these parameters, who is this Shalom Daniel? Anybody knows? Shalom Daniel?
Yeah.
Hello?
Nora
Oh,
Govan. Yeah, Nora Govan.
I think Daniel is from Ramakrishna College. Daniel, you are the same guy, Vijay? It's our Daniel.
I think he haven't joined. Okay, he joined. Yeah. Right.
Daniel?
His audio is not connected, Raghavan.
Audio
Only
is not
video
there.
is showing to him. Yeah.
Okay.
His mic is
I
not
think he's a
visible.
guy. Okay, no problem. Right? So when we talk about student.class, student.java, what are the attributes that we declare, guys?
Name, age, roll number,
You can give
branch.
name, ID, department.
What attribute access specifier I should give now?
Private.
Private.
You all understand now, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Private string, name, instead of
Name.
first name, last name. Then private,
ID, integer, department. Yeah.
int age, right? Private, string,
Department.
department, right? Probably few things, that's fine. In the interest of time, we'll stop with the 3. What are
Yeah.
these attributes? You call it as
Instance
Member
variable
variable.
or member
Variable.
variable.
attributes or properties
Property.
pertaining to the specific instance. Yes or no?
Yeah.
How about this, guys? Can you read this?
How about this?
Can somebody read this? College name.
College name. It's common for.
Is this specific to a particular instance?
No, it's a common.
No.
Common
No,
for
it's common.
multiple
Or
instance.
should we need to keep it as instance specific?
Yeah.
Should we need to?
In-
We don't, right? You
Yeah.
understand? It is not supposed to be tied to a particular, it's not instance specific data, whereas it is a common data. Clear?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
the
common
question.
for multiple instance.
Exactly. This is where, what do? We declare this as a static. What do you mean by that?
Static.
What is that? So we use this as static string. Now what will happen?
It may be common for particular objects.
Now this is common to
No.
all the objects of this class, right? Not
Okay,
just
yeah.
to one specific instance. Is it clear?
But where is the
Yes,
value
sir.
for it? It's not yet initialized.
We will do that. Obviously, we should do that. Let's come back to that. Let's say I have been to a college last time, right? Ramakrishna
Param.
Mission Vidyalaya. You understand, right? You are convinced, right? You don't need to specify this value to 1,000 students at a time, at everybody. You can keep it common, correct? Your efforts are also same. Yes or no?
But the same thing we can achieve by writing a default constructor, and we can put this data inside.
You can, but that's a good question. but conceptually this data is not tied to an instance always. You can pull it out and keep it common. Conceptually.
But then it will break the OOP concept, right? When
No,
we are saying-
there is a tug of war. I'll come to that. Yes, there is always a tug of war. The static members are not really instance specific. It doesn't really help for OOP. But where do you give attention? If you have n variables, n minus 1 are declared as private. Very limited data which you want to keep it as common across all the objects of a class. You move it as static. You have it as a common data.
Okay.
Clear? Not anything and everything. Make sense? Another example, what I like, let's
So
look
here,
at it.
Vidyalaya spelling mistake.
Sorry.
Ramakrishna Mission Vidyalaya. Double Y. Spelling.
That is
Vidyalaya. Okay, that's, yeah, makes sense. That's correct, Vijay. Yeah.
Yes.
Vidyayala. Yeah.
yeah.
It was a syllable, right? Okay.
Yes.
Now I do this, right? Let me do this. I'll take a test student at Java. Yes or no? As always. Public class test student. I don't have a constructor yet. Just pay attention. Public static void main string marks. Student S1 equal to new student. Yes or no?
Yes.
Then what am I printing? Okay, wait. I don't have. Sorry. What should I have?
First name.
Either a constructor or you could
Constructor or
also,
static.
right. Or you can also have public this. By default, if you don't specify anything, what happens? What is the default access specifier? If you don't specify anything,
Default.
even for static, take this assignment 2. What should be the, I want you to write a program and test this. Okay. Now I keep it simple, right? Return student. As of now, do I have any data now?
Oh no, it's a default.
Age. Then what do I have?
Only for static college name we have data. Remaining all are
Department.
default.
College name equal to. Yes or no, guys?
Yeah.
Is a Java C student got compiled or not?
Compiled.
Now I go test student at Java. And what I'm supposed to do next?
To call the
Department.
Here you see. This is a common data and we are able to supply it through the class level, which is static. Agreed?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now let's go to this as well. So why do we use basically? It is a keyword. It is used to denote the members of a class rather than an object. Like how we have an, okay, before going ahead, okay. Like how we have an instance variable and method, we can have a static variable and a static method. Class level. You can have a method also defined with static as a keyword. Now what is happening in this case? If you write this, can somebody tell me?
or didn't get the question.
In this diagram, if I want to pull this here, if I want to take it out, with the concept of static, what happens? That's my question.
Member variable will be class variable.
So this I think one reference will go to string literal actually.
Well, let's not talk about that right now.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about that student itself. It's a generic concept I'm saying, right?
Okay.
One more partition will come.
Exactly. Exactly. What do you have it here?
But I think it will not break any object-oriented programming, right? Because it's a class under class.
Not really, not completely, but yes, there is a tug of war. What do you put this as?
Static variable.
Today we are sharing this.
So can
Yes,
you
it is
say
Table
being
static
across
variable or
all the
class
objects.
variable?
That's what it is a breaking. That's what.
correct.
It's not breaking. Like we are not following the proper OOP principle actually.
Correct.
But there is no other way to solve it. Also, whatever the problem is, static is solving.
Exactly. You don't have a way to do that. That's also correct. So now what has happened here? Let's assume, okay, I'll put this here itself, right? I take this data. You get it? Static methods. But what I'm going to do now, this is it is. Why I'm putting the shade as brown color?
It's optional.
Not optional.
Maybe for class.
Yes. It is not specific to an instance. And it is common. That's the right answer. So here it goes. And here I have this.
Without creating object also, static variables methods will be executed.
Correct. Correct. So if you look at it, this is the student class, but I am marking this as well to static. So that means they are common, right? Not specific to an instance. They are common to all the instances. So this way, this is how the class will look like. It's a class level data, static variable, static methods, and their properties and methods, right? Static, their class level. Makes sense? So how should we access it? Right? They're always referred to with reference to the class name as a prefix. Like how this dot or S1 dot, S2 dot, we call it as, right? Here, let's say one more example, best example. With that, I'll put a break. The very best example is, let's assume we want to keep track of the number of instances being created. How many objects are getting created for a class? Doesn't it sound better? I want to know
Yes,
how many
Raghav, yeah.
instances have been created. Now, can you have a variable at a class level? Let's say you have a constructor. What will happen? A member variable. What will happen?
Each time,
What will happen?
whenever you create a new object, the default constructor will get called.
Correct. Let's say
And through which we
instance
can
counter
add one
without
increment.
static dot Java. Let's assume this public class instance counter without static. Clear? Let's say I have a counter. Clear, guys? And what do? Public. Please pay attention. This will justify the need for having a static. One more without static. Can I have a constructor here like this? What do?
Counter plus plus.
That's all right. Public static void main. What do I do further?
Yes.
I create instance counter without static. Object 1 equal to new instance counter without static. Yes or no?
Yes.
System out println. What I am printing now? The value of the counter. Yes or no? I say object 1 dot counter also you could do. But ultimately, what do we say? This is also right. But how do we refer this? Okay, this is instance, correct. That's right. My bad. You're right. So 2 lines YY, then printing this. This is what? I create that. That will help my purpose, right? Solve my purpose. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Java C instance counter without static Java. It got compiled. Any question? We are clear. We can also look at this. What has been created? Main method. Within the constructor, we do all this. Field counter plus plus plus. If yesterday's class, if somebody wants to refresh it, what is happening in the counter? Counter plus plus. It does a lot more things. Put field, load, duplicate, get to field. It is getting the field and putting the value again. Put field as well. It does it all, right? Now what do I do now to run this, right? What values we get?
One.
What do you actually expect? The number of objects you want to count, correct? But why we get 1 every time? Why not 2?
Actually, here inside we are inside the object, and we are wanted to count the another object. I think this
Correct.
is what is wrong. But
exactly. So the problem here is, if you think of an object will have its own data. The object is just now born.
yes,
So you don't have a data that should stay outside the context of an object.
For that-
Lifespan of an object, correct?
sure.
If it is within the lifespan of an object, it's instance, that object's data.
Yes.
But you are looking for a data which should be sustaining beyond the lifespan of an object. It's outside the territory, right?
Yeah.
That is where we have, what is that? Another example you see here. What do you have?
A static
instance counter. I have this here, exactly the same example.
So Raghavan, I will just add one point. Actually, it's an interview question.
Yes.
Somebody asked me long back, like without using a static variable, how you will count the number of objects created by the
Very
class?
good. Correct. Yeah.
So the answer is like we can create a separate class. Here we have one instance where let's say count. Okay. In the main class, we just say increment.
You pass this class as an argument. It's like has a behavior.
Yes.
That's a good one, Dhananjay. Yeah, thanks. Good.
This is one. I just
right. Thank you for that, Dhananjay. Yeah. So let's look at it. Instance counter I'm doing now. What am I doing? Can somebody pay attention to this? What did I do?
So made counter as a static.
Static. That is where I have.
Yeah.
Correct. And there is a compiler constructor. I am doing counter plus plus. But how am I accessing this?
With the class name.
Class name. Without this also it is all right, but not recommended. I add this as a counter increment of this class, right? Then the same step I am doing here. Two objects I create. I refer to a static object, static variable through the object reference, which is also okay, but not recommended. But what is the right way?
But it will refer with class name.
Class. Is there any questions on this class? It's very simple, right? Yes or no? I compile the class. What do I do now? Instance counter. Do you see the value, instance counter value?
No, it's changing.
First time it is 1. And the second time I call, two different invocations I do. Now what is my value?
2.
So this is where the static comes into picture. There's one more concept we need to look at it. Static. What do I do? A static method can access only the static members or properties. There are two things, guys. From an object reference, you access a static variable. But if there is a static method, it can access only a static variable, not an instance variable. Why? Conceptually, a static is agnostic of an instance. It doesn't know any instance. It is at the time of class loading. Without even any object gets created, the static variable exists in the memory, right? It comes into picture. At that time, you are saying, I want you to keep track of one particular instance's data. Which instance? There is no guarantee that an instance can never be created. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Without creating an instance, you can access a static variable. I think Uday, you told a while ago. Clear? So you cannot access the instance variable from within the static member. Make sense?
Yes. So
Yes.
in the school example, we can say that as student always know the name of the school, but the school
Correct.
doesn't know that which student is taking coaching
Exactly.
from where.
Exactly. You don't even have a school can be built, but no admission given. School name is there, but you don't know which student is enrolling now. Exactly. That's a good example. Correct. So that is all with respect to static as well. I think a bit longer we have taken, 30 minutes before we would have completed it. Any questions, guys, on this static and in encapsulation, what we have covered so far?
No, sir, clear.
Let me take
Yeah,
packages
Raghavan.
later.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. So let's take a break of 15, 20 minutes. Is it fine? 9:15. Is it fine, or you want to have 30 minutes break? It's 8:53. Shall we connect at 9:15 or 9:30? 9:30. What is it?
9:30. Yeah, I need to go to canteen.
Okay. So is it fine? At least now can I have a response from others?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So sharp
Yes, sir.
9:30 we meet. Okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, please be prepared. There's definitely a little more we need to talk on this. I want to cover packages, encapsulation, exception. Then we'll go about, probably we'll start with
JDBC.
GitHub. Yeah,
Git.
GitHub or JDBC, anything we'll choose. No problem.
Okay,
right?
we can go with the Git. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, Git
Sure.
will be.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, Raghavan. Yeah.
Let's have a break.
Thank you.
I'll close the bridge now. You can rejoin later. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Thanks.
Sure.
Bye.
Thank you. Yeah, bye.
Yeah.